Welcome to the Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, course for leadership teams. In this course, we will discuss what is GDPR, why is GDPR relevant to you, main elements of GDPR, and how will GDPR impact me as a leadership team member. The European Union General Data Protection Regulation sets guidelines for the collection and processing of personal information within the European Union. Essentially, the regulation intends to strengthen data protection and get all the European Union countries under one unified regulation. Why is GDPR important to you? Compliance with GDPR is important for everyone associated with BNI because our data, stored in BNI Connect, is hosted by servers that are physically located in the United Kingdom. But most importantly, you want us protecting your data. You might be saying to yourself, I'm confused. What does this have to do with me? I'm not even in the European Union. So let's use this example. When a member joins in the United States, his or her data is entered into our operating management system, BNI Connect. This data is transmitted to the European Union, where the data is stored and processed. The data then goes back to the US for use throughout that membership. Therefore, the data is protected by GDPR even though the member is in the US. The data now enjoys the benefits and protections as afforded under GDPR. So what is personal data? Personal data is defined as any information that can link to a person. So that can be name, location data, online identifiers including IP addresses, an identification number we might give you in BNI Connect, economic, cultural, or social identity of a person, health information, or physical attributes. A great example for BNI would be a professional classification and a date range. That could help us figure out who that person actually is. All of this data is considered personal data. BNI Connect is being upgraded now so that it complies with all GDPR laws, which include marketing consent, right to be forgotten, mandatory breach notification, privacy by design, subject access rights, data portability, data minimization, data protection officer, and international data transfers. So let me give you an example of how BNI Connect will work for visitors and guests and fully comply with GDPR. When a person visits a chapter or an event happening in your region, they will now have the ability to create a login into BNI Connect. Once logged in, they can update their information. They can consent to receiving marketing materials. They can get access to all the data that we have related to them. They can download their data and take it with them, or they can ask to be forgotten or deleted from the system. Given this example, BNI Connect will be 100% compliant with GDPR. So you still might be asking yourself, why am I taking this training? Well, we're still dealing with a lot of paper in BNI. Anything that is within one of our computer systems is safe. That means if you look at a report in BNI Connect, all the data is safe. The minute you hit print is when you have a responsibility. This is where you come in. Let's talk about how we protect personal data outside of our computer systems. So first we have a paper form. This includes any form that has member's name on it or identifiable information like professional classification and date. This also could include reports that are printed. Each form has a lifespan of use. This is how long the form is in active use. So this would be, how long do I need to have this information so that I can use it to meet a business need? After that, some forms need to be retained. The final place that all forms should be retained is at the regional office, and the time in which they will store that data should be defined by their document retention policy within the region. After you've used the form and you've determined whether it needs to be retained or not and gotten it to its final resting place, hopefully electronic, then you'll want to destroy the paper form. All paper forms must be destroyed within 72 hours of end of use. There's going to be special verbiage added to each form that may contain personal information to remind you to destroy it after 72 hours. So now let's look at some examples. So let's take the paper form of a referral slip. Yes, I know some of you don't use paper slips anymore. However, this is an example that may apply globally. The lifespan of use tends to end after the vice president enters the slips into BNI Connect. 2 of these slips can be kept for the referral reality check for approximately 2 weeks. The retention of the form, there's no need to retain referral slips. So the referral slips should be destroyed approximately 96 hours after they enter the vice president's possession. Another example of referral slips would be as soon as the member makes contact with the referral and transfers the referral's information into another system. At that point, the referral slip should be destroyed. Let's look at another example, applications. The lifespan of an application ends after the membership committee approves the member. The retention of the form should be retained at the regional office only, so you will need to destroy the chapter copy. If you happen to have copies of applications at the chapter level, please arrange to have those sent to the regional office or dropped off at the regional office so all forms can be retained there. We don't want any files being kept at the chapter level because that creates additional risk for the chapter. So, an application should be destroyed after the membership committee approves, which should be about 3 weeks after the application is submitted by the visitor. Let's take one more example, the visitor sign-in sheet. The lifespan of the visitor sign-in sheet ends after the visitor host or the secretary-treasurer enters the visitor attendance into BNI Connect. There's no need to retain the sign-in sheets because all the information will be put into BNI Connect. The paper should be destroyed about 96 hours after the meeting in which the visitor host or the secretary-treasurer receives the visitor sign-in sheet. As you can see, we talked about what is GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. Why is GDPR relevant to you? Because there's still a lot of times that we use paper within the organization, and we want you to start getting as electronic as possible, but also we want to make sure that you're protecting personal data that is on paper when it's in your possession. The main elements of GDPR, we mentioned those when we went through examples of how BNI Connect is being upgraded. And then how will GDPR impact you as a leadership team member? The one major thing is that you just need to remember to destroy all paper 72 hours after use. If you have any questions about GDPR, please contact your regional office. And remember, we are committed to supporting you as we work towards compliance with GDPR and ensuring that BNI benefits globally from this new regulation.